Tonight, we'll crack open the cobwebs of 3 true Christmas horror stories. Stories so chilling, they'll make you think twice about leaving milk and cookies for St. Nick. We're diving into the dark underbelly of Christmas, where shadows dance and secrets huddle in the chimney's soot. Before starting the Christmas horror stories, please like this video. Tell us in the comments which story you liked, and subscribe our YouTube channel for more horror stories. Story number 1. Theodore shivered, not from the crisp December air, but from a prickling unease that snaked its way through his veins. He surveyed the scene unfolding before him. His house, usually a haven of warmth and laughter, thrummed with an unsettling energy. His friends, gathered for their annual Christmas Eve bash, seemed a touch too animated, their eyes gleaming with an unnatural firelight reflected from the crackling fireplace. The usual carols had morphed into unsettling chants, the lyrics twisted into dark parodies of holiday cheer. The flickering Christmas lights cast grotesque shadows on the walls, dancing like macabre marionettes. Even the festive decorations, once symbols of joy, now held a hint of something menacing, their holly berries like drops of congealed blood. Theodore tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the potent eggnog and the unsettling influence of his friend Edgar, who always pushed the boundaries of good taste. But as the night wore on, the unease solidified into terror. The chants grew louder, more incoherent, punctuated by bursts of manic laughter that echoed through the house like the howls of wolves. Suddenly, Edgar, his eyes flashing with a feverish glee, snatched a burning log from the fireplace. "Let's play a game," he cackled, his voice distorted by the flames. "A Yuletide ritual, an offering to the old ones who slumber beneath the snow." Panic surged through Theodore. He knew Edgar dabbled in the occult, but this felt different, darker. His friends, normally level-headed, cheered on Edgar, their faces flushed with a feverish excitement. Before Theodore could protest, Edgar hurled the flaming log into the fireplace, and a gout of green fire erupted, bathing the room in an unnatural light. The shadows on the walls writhed and twisted, forming grotesque figures that seemed to step out of the flames. The chants transformed into a guttural language, sending shivers down Theodore's spine. His friends, now possessed by an alien madness, began chanting along, their eyes glowing with an unholy green light. Trapped in this nightmare, Theodore stumbled back, searching for a way out. He bumped into a heavy bookshelf, his hand brushing against a leather-bound tome tucked away in the corner. Instinctively, he grabbed it, its cool touch grounding him amidst the chaos. Opening the book, he saw faded symbols and glyphs, a forgotten language he somehow understood. It spoke of an ancient ritual, a way to banish the summoned entities back to the darkness from whence they came. Hope flickered in his chest, a fragile ember in the face of the encroaching shadows. With trembling hands, Theodore recited the incantation, his voice barely a whisper above the cacophony. As he spoke, the green fire sputtered and dimmed, the shadows on the walls recoiling into the flames. His friends, their eyes returning to their natural brown, slumped to the floor, exhausted and bewildered. Edgar, the fire's dying embers reflected in his glazed eyes, stared at Theodore with a mixture of rage and fear. "You ruined it," he rasped, his voice raw with defeat. "You spoiled the revelry." Theodore, adrenaline leaving his body, collapsed onto the floor. He looked around, the room returning to its normal, albeit slightly askew, state. The Christmas lights twinkled harmlessly, the shadows cast by the now subdued fireplace dancing playfully on the walls. But the memory of the night, the brush with an ancient darkness, would forever taint his Christmases. He knew the shadows still lurked beneath the surface, waiting for another opportunity, for another Yuletide revelry. And somewhere deep within him, a part of him wondered if, next time, he would be strong enough to resist the call of the crimson snow. Theodore spent the following days in a daze, the events of that night replaying in his mind on a loop. He avoided his friends, lost in the haunted silence of his own fear. Christmas cheer felt like a cruel mockery, the festive lights flickering reminders of the darkness he had glimpsed. One quiet morning, as he sat by the fireplace, staring into the smoldering embers, a knock at the door startled him. Hesitantly, he opened it to find Edgar standing there, his face pale and drawn. "I wanted to apologize," Edgar said, his voice barely a whisper. I don't know what came over me. The book, it whispered promises of power, of a forbidden Yuletide feast. But I saw what it did to us." Story number 2. Christmas lights twinkled like fireflies against the crisp Wyoming night as Jackson stood on the porch, a nervous knot churning in his stomach. Inside, laughter and music spilled from their newly built cabin, the scene a warm island amidst the snow-dusted expanse. Tonight, they hosted their first Christmas party, a gathering of old friends from their city life, now trading skyscrapers for star-studded skies. But as a gust of wind whipped down the mountainside, carrying with it the mournful cry of a coyote, Jackson couldn't shake the unease prickling his skin. The isolation, the looming peaks shrouded in darkness, a whisper of ancient secrets carried on the icy wind. It all felt unsettling, a stark contrast to the festive cheer inside. He joined the party, the warmth and merriment washing over him like a soothing tide. Yet, the unease lingered, amplified by the crackling fire that threw long, distorted shadows on the wooden walls. One by one, his friends recounted ghost stories, each tale adding another layer of frost to the air. Then, Sarah, an artist with a penchant for the macabre, pulled out a leather-bound journal found nestled among the cabin's rafters. Its pages, brittle with age, were scrawled with indecipherable symbols and chilling sketches of monstrous creatures with eyes like burning embers. Sarah, her voice tinged with excitement, translated a verse, a warning of an ancient entity trapped beneath the ice of the nearby frozen lake, waiting for the veil between worlds to thin on Christmas Eve. A nervous hush fell over the room. Laughter died in throats, replaced by the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock and the howling wind outside. As they stared at the cryptic symbols, shadows seemed to dance on the walls, taking on monstrous shapes. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoed from the lake. Everyone jumped, eyes wide with terror. Through the frosted window, they saw a fissure spreading across the ice, growing wider with each agonizing groan. Panic erupted. People scrambled for the door, pushing and shoving in their desperate bid to escape. Jackson, separated from his wife Emily, fought his way through the crowd. He heard her scream, then a sickening thud. Spinning around, he saw her lying by the frozen window, a monstrous tentacle dripping with icy slime, retracting into the widening maw of the lake. His body turned to ice, his throat choked with grief and rage. He grabbed a poker from the fireplace, the metal searing his hand. Ignoring the pain, he lunged towards the window, a primal scream tearing from his lips. He smashed the glass, the freezing air biting into his lungs. The creature, a grotesque mass of tentacles and eyes, hissed at him, its icy breath chilling him to the bone. He thrust the poker, hot against the cold flesh, a futile gesture against its sheer size and power. But then, from within the creature, a faint glimmer. Emily's eyes, pleading. With a renewed surge of adrenaline, Jackson plunged the poker deeper, searing a hole into the monstrosity's flesh. It shrieked, a sound that shattered the night and recoiled into the depths of the lake. The crack in the ice closed with an ear-splitting roar, sealing the creature back below. As silence descended, a chilling quiet settling over the cabin, Jackson stumbled to Emily, finding her miraculously unharmed, frozen in shock. Holding her close, the warmth of her body a haven against the winter's bite, Jackson knew in that moment that the shadows would always lurk at the edge of their newfound paradise. But he also knew the bond forged in that icy encounter would forever be their shield against the whispers of the unseen. The Christmas lights outside glowed with an eerie afterlight, a stark reminder of the night the veil thinned and unleashed a nightmare. But within the cabin, the fire crackled anew, casting warm shadows that danced on the faces of friends huddled together, forever bound by the echoes in the ice. The Christmas party never resumed, their idyllic dream shattered by the glimpse of darkness beneath the snow. But as they left the cabin behind, carrying their scars and stories, they carried too a newfound respect for the secrets kept by the mountains, a chilling reminder that even amidst the beauty of winter, shadows can rise from the frozen depths. Story number 3. Elijah, bundled in his warmest parka, trudged alongside his parents through the snowy twilight. Their suburban streets sparkled with Christmas cheer, brightly lit houses, snowmen sporting jaunty scarves, carolers belting out festive tunes. Yet Elijah felt a shiver slither down his spine, unrelated to the December chill. His gaze kept darting to their house, a looming silhouette at the end of the street. Their house, usually ablaze with festive joy, was dark, silent. Dad had hung the decorations late, a hurried affair after a long business trip. Now, as they approached, Elijah glimpsed something unsettling. The inflatable Santa on the lawn sprawled limply, its jolly grin stretched into a grotesque gape. Icicles dripped from its plastic belly like petrified tears. Stepping onto the porch, Elijah noticed the intricately carved wreath Dad had taken such pride in. Now, the holly berries seemed like bloodstains, the pine cones like sharpened teeth. Inside, the house was colder than he expected. Christmas lights blinked weakly, casting long, flickering shadows. The festive cheer of previous years hung heavy here, like a forgotten melody tainted by a discordant note. "Honey, I'm going to go get the fire started," his mom announced, her voice strained. Dad, his face drawn tight with worry, rummaged through the dark living room. Elijah lingered by the tree, its once vibrant ornaments now dull and dusty. As he brushed a snowflake off a ceramic angel, its porcelain wings crackled and crumbled in his fingers. A sudden movement in the corner caught his eye. A hulking figure shrouded in shadow loomed by the fireplace. Fear, icy and primal, gripped Elijah. He wanted to scream, but his voice died in his throat. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a twisted Christmas elf. Its once jolly green suit was ragged and stained, its red pom-pom hat askew. Its face, a grotesque caricature of elven glee, was contorted in a manic grin, revealing pointed teeth dripping with an inky blackness. "Merry Christmas, little one," the elf rasped, its voice like rusted tinsel. Elijah stumbled back, tripping over a fallen bauble. The elf lunged, its long, skeletal fingers reaching for him. He screamed then, a desperate cry that tore through the suffocating silence. His parents burst into the room, their faces etched with horror. Dad shoved Elijah behind him, grabbing a poker from the fireplace. The elf cackled, a horrifying sound that echoed through the house. It danced around them, its movements eerily fluid, impossibly swift. The struggle was frantic, desperate. Dad managed to land a blow to the elf's shoulder, but it seemed only to enrage the creature. With a guttural roar, it lunged, knocking Dad aside. Elijah watched in numb terror as the elf's claws sank into his father's chest. Mom screamed, a blood-curdling shriek that seemed to shatter the Christmas spirit hanging heavy in the air. In a burst of adrenaline, Elijah grabbed a fallen ornament, a heavy glass snowman. He hurled it with all his might, the glass shattering against the elf's grinning face. The creature stumbled back, a deep growl emanating from its throat. Then, with a final ear-splitting screech, it dissolved into a cloud of black mist, vanishing into the shadows. Exhausted and trembling, Elijah and his parents clung to each other. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls, but the warmth couldn't erase the chilling memory of the elf's malicious grin. The rest of the night was a blur. Police swarmed the house, baffled by the bizarre attack. Christmas, once a beacon of joy, lay shattered on the cold, hard floor. In the days that followed, Elijah tried to understand what had happened. Why the elf? Why their house? He found no answers, only nightmares filled with the creature's mocking laughter and the glint of its terrible claws. The next Christmas, the house remained undecorated. The snow outside whispered forgotten carols, the wind carrying a faint echo of the elf's chilling song. Though the horror faded with time, a part of Elijah would forever be haunted by the night the deck halls were decked with dread, the night Christmas turned into a nightmare. And sometimes, on frosty nights, when the shadows dance in the firelight, he swears he can still hear the faint whisper carried on the wind, a chilling reminder of the Christmas he'll never forget. Our 3 Christmas horror stories are over. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more horror stories.